What's going on? Phil from Phil Will Expose. Welcome aboard. I got a really special guest on today's episode. Goes by the name of Jason Ferruggia. Doesn't need an introduction from many, but I'm really happy to have him on. This is a person I've been following for a very long time. Before I even started my own channel, before I started my own blog, I was reading a lot of his blog posts. So I'm super grateful to have him on the channel today, and welcome aboard, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
So for all of those who don't already know who you are, which might be a very few, would you mind introducing yourself, just telling us how you started as a trainer, everything?
Sure, yeah, man. Like I started, 2019 is 25 years in the industry for me. So I started in '94. Before that, growing up, I was just, skinny, weak, insecure, shy. Um, got bullied, not the coolest kid, not the most athletic kid. And so I grew up, watching Stallone and Schwarzenegger on the big screen and pro wrestling every Saturday morning. And I was like, man, I want to be like a larger than life superhero like these guys, like carry myself with confidence and be jacked. And so kind of really got into training. Like I was 12 years old in 1986. My cousin Christine started dating a pro wrestler and he was just humongous. And I was like, man, got to be like that dude one day. And so I started training, went from not doing anything to training like 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I just, I couldn't even move. I wasn't getting anywhere, but I became obsessed with it all through high school and college. And I trained for 5 years straight. I graduated high school 147 pounds and 6 feet tall. So obviously I had to dig a little deeper to try to figure out what I was going to do that would work actually. And then just interned in the college weight room, switched my major to exercise science, and started training people when I was 19. And it took off, and I saved every dime I had, put it back into the business. Eventually was able to open up a small space in a basement. So it was literally underground, 1,000 square feet. And that's where we started the gym. And man, the next 15 years, it was just there 12 hours a day on the floor, just training people.
Nice. So I just want to share with the audience my experience with Jason's work because some of my OG subscribers, whatever you want to call it, know that I followed you for a very long time, but not everybody knows. So long story short, I was reading a lot of articles, bodybuilding.com, T Nation, stuff like that, and I stumbled upon Jason Ferruggia's articles, and I noticed that it just clicked a lot more with me. It just his whole personality, just how raw his content was, and just the way he broke everything down. It really resonated with me. I grew up extremely skinny. I graduated high school. I was like 140, 145, and I saw
Oh,
like he
well.
had a crazy transformation too, and like it just really clicked with me. And I do think that bodybuilding.com and T Nation, depending on who's writing the article, there is still some good stuff, but like when it came to Jason stuff, it always clicked with me. And what I really liked about your work is that you just show people like you didn't sugarcoat anything. You were just yourself. You'd swear, but while still being a professional. You talk about the music you like. Your whole minimalist series. Um, you just you just showed everybody just raw and uncut, and I really like that. And I always thought that as a coach, yes, you have to carry yourself in a certain way, but I like the way you carried yourself. You always talk about music, the same kind of music I like. The D12, OB Trice, all that kind of stuff. The old school rap. Really click with that. The whole minimalist thing. That's something I've been dealing with for a very long time. Just getting rid of stuff and just trying to feel like whole within. And
Yeah,
but also as far as like
and I
the
love it. Thank you so much for that.
nah, for sure, and even the training related stuff, especially the training related stuff. Training for performance, getting strong to get big. Always chasing performance. The neck work. Like I've made so many neck training videos, and people are like thinking that I made it up or Mike the Machine. And I told them all the time, look, it's Jason Ferruggia and a couple of Wendler articles.
Mm.
And people think I'm like, what's up with this neck training, Phil? What's all like this shit on your head and stuff? But it's nothing new under the sun. You've been talking about it like in like '09 articles and stuff, and
Mm.
it's everything comes full circle. So it's like you're gonna have a next now. Kino's Body's talking about. I saw Kino Body give you a shout out in one of his new videos about the neck training and just stuff like that. Also staying safe in the gym. For all you don't know, Jason had like a shoulder surgery, a lot of shoulder problems from improper training, ego lifting, and all that stuff. And he always gave tips on that's where I get a lot of the neutral grip training stuff from, and just trying to train to stay injury free. Also, like the body weight training stuff. I didn't know body weight training was that effective before
Mm.
I stumbled upon your articles. Like looking at the gymnasts and stuff like that. And even aside from the training related stuff, I've been diving into your new stuff, like your seminars, um, podcasts, all that stuff, talking about self improvement. So now I can see that you've evolved so much over the years, and I've seen your progression. It's crazy because it's way deeper than just lifting weights now. And now it's about um, like kind of like I don't want to quote Elliot, but becoming the best version of yourself, just becoming that 2.0 version. And
Yeah.
yeah, I really like that. So pretty long introduction, but that's just a fraction of the stuff I've learned from Jason's channel, from Jason's his blog, and you could check out his YouTube channel too. We'll talk about that after. But so let's talk about your transformation, because me personally, I guess I'm still in that phase where I like the big look, and I see like when you were 230, with the
Mm.
traps and all that, and like always talking about the yoke. That's where I got
Yeah.
the yoke terminology too, is from Jason, But what caused the transform? What was behind the transformation? How do you feel? What was the main thing that made you to say like, "Hey, I'm gonna cut this weight and I'm gonna be where I am now"?
I think it was just, for so many years, that was my whole identity, and that was all I cared about was just getting bigger and stronger. And uh, I went through this personal development kind of journey for about 5 years, and so training kind of went on the back burner. And so I was just like, man, I got so much bigger. I gained so much size and strength, but really deep down, I'm still just a bigger, stronger version of that skinny, weak, insecure kid. And I still have all these kind of issues that I need to address, like in my head, my heart, my way of thinking, my operating systems, how I'm approaching people on a day-to-day basis, habits, whatever it might be. So I had a lot of work to do. So I was like, man, I just got to back off of this obsession with eating and training and all this, and really just deep dive and spend all my time reading books and going to workshops and seminars and working through stuff and fixing who I am. And then part of that was, man, I want to get healthier too. Like it wasn't. I mean, of course, I still like the look of being bigger and jacked and whatnot. Like I'm looking at you now, and I'm like, oh man, I got to gain some weight again.
Yeah.
But but it's like I was trying to get healthier, so I completely changed my diet, my lifestyle, and everything. And it's not normal for me. Nobody in my family's big, even remotely big. So I was like, man, I got to clean up my diet, my lifestyle. So I just cut a bunch of weight. Like for me to walk around at 227 all the time wasn't really. I didn't look that great. I didn't feel that great. My joints hurt. Like I'm 44, but I remember my late 20s, early 30s, where everything always hurt. I was always tweaking something, always getting injured. I was always tired. Like I needed a nap every 2 hours during the day. I was always dead tired. I didn't sleep well. And now all of that's gone away. So I think being lighter and healthier definitely was an improvement for me. I mean, that said, I may, now that I've held this weight and been this lean for a while, I think it would be easy, not easy, but, fairly easy now if I said, all right, I'm going to try to put on, another 7 to 10 pounds of muscle. Maybe I could do that in a year. Um, but I won't be walking around, at the size I used to by any stretch.
hmm It's still I still like the look, but I can understand where you're coming from, and I kind of
Yeah,
go through the same thing sometimes too. Like I feel like one of the worst things people do is label themselves, and when you're just
yeah,
labeled as that big guy,
right.
it's not the way to go because um, you're not whole within.
Yeah,
And I feel
totally.
like a lot of people like they're not whole within. They rely on all this external validation of like being this big guy. And then one day, let's say they get a surgery or, they get really sick or they get into an accident and all that's taken away from them. They have nothing left to fall back on.
Yeah,
And I feel like it's great to chase the size and just be like, Mr. Yoked or big man, whatever you want to call it, but not to rely on it too much because it could all be taken away.
yeah. Well,
And
so what I realized is I think it's the pursuit of that I really like now more so than that. Like if you walk around with this false security and you're just wearing this suit of armor so that everybody respects you or says, hey, big guy, like that's not the best thing. But the actual pursuit of it, getting up, going to the gym, putting in the work,
right.
eating meals, getting enough sleep, that builds character, that builds resilience, that builds your confidence. because self-confidence and self-esteem comes from making promises to yourself and keeping them. So if you could follow your diet and go to the gym and, progressive overload and do these things, that's awesome. That's what you should be measuring your success on. And then you have real confidence when you walk into a room, whether you weigh 130 or 230. But if it's just how big am I, what size shirt am I wearing, are people intimidated by me, you're always going to be struggling with those security issues.
No, of course. It's funny you said because I just dropped a video, 5 life lessons the gym teaches you, and some people, like after 5, 10 years in the gym, all they have to show for it is like a bigger total or a bigger body, but you missed the boat, if that's all you got from the experience.
Yeah.
And I could tell that you've got so much more out of it. And anybody who says, oh well, who looks at someone who's been training for a long time and says, oh well, they only look like that, it's
Yeah.
very it's just not the right way to look at it. But how do you feel? Like, what's the differences in the way you feel? Like, from the cutting the weight, like from changing the
Yeah.
food, changing the training?
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like I just everything. I have way more energy. When I walk, I feel lighter. My joints don't hurt as much. I mean, barely at all, knock on wood, compared to how they used to. I would always have that back. I think we could all relate. Like if you gain a lot more weight than is natural for you, and you're squatting and deadlifting heavy all the time, we all kind of have that kind of experience where you're sitting for a while and your back always hurts. You're on a plane, you're in a movie theater, your back's always getting tight. So that never happens anymore. Um, like I said, sleep is way better. I think probably I wasn't breathing as well. I had so much inflammation, so everything's better. My cognitive function's better. Across the board, feel way better.
Nice. So what's the training like nowadays? Like, what are your goals as far as like in the weight room? I saw you just doing those inverted rows. Like, what's PRs for health or what? Like,
Yeah, man. I still like to train. I'll still be in the gym lifting 4 days a week. I still love to get stronger. So I don't chase progressive overload maybe as much as I used to. Um, Although I'll be honest with you, if someone said, "Hey, you got $5 million, you got 90 days to get ready for whatever it is," I would have a strict plan and progressive overload 4 days a week on safe exercise. I do it safer and smarter than I used to do it.
mm,
But my training nowadays is a lot of it is just as much as I'll push things. I got a single leg RDL. The first time I started doing those a couple years back, super hard balance. It was challenging. I might be able to do them with 35-pound dumbbells, where now I can do them with 100-pound dumbbells. So I work up on stuff like that. I'll work up on a single leg press. I'll work up on push-up variations. I don't do as much, barbell squats, deadlifts, and bench, but I'll still go super heavy as I can safely with those things. But
okay.
again, nowadays, it's kind of a weird. I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. But after training for 30 years, what I do is I bounce around so much where I'm training with this guy this day, I'm training with this guy, I'm training with my friend, I'm going to New York this week. I'm sure I'll train with friends 3 days in a row, and the programs will make no sense whatsoever. But it's just fun now. I just get to meet up with I know so many cool people and have so many amazing connections. So I might be training with this pro bodybuilder tomorrow. We'll do 18 sets of back, and then I'll do a full body workout with Ben Bruno the next day. So it makes no sense. But I'm enjoying it, and like I said, I'm doing it smart enough that I'm not getting banged up. So
It's more of a chaos type of training.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, overall, like if you said, what's your plan? If you're not going to do that and bounce around, I would do 4 days a week, upper lower, or I might even do like a four-way split. I do enjoy splits. Like I might do a pull day, a push day, and then whatever I want to work on day four. A pull day, a push day, a leg day, and then whatever I want to do extra stuff on day four.
Mm-hmm.
So I could hit stuff twice a week.
Okay. So let's jump into some of the coaching related stuff, because as a coach, I've learned a lot from Jason. I wasn't able to find those articles, but I remember you had traits of good coaches, and you're just talking about very basic stuff, saying the client's name more often, and just
Mm.
very the jewels.
Yeah.
But, what's your take on? I don't know if you know about Christian Thibodeau's psychological profile. He has a test on that,
Wait, which one? Which
the
one?
neurotype test.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what's your take on like training for every client individually? Because you're gonna get like a multitude of different clients. You get some very shy ones, you get some very energetic ones. some who like to lift extremely heavy, some who have like, depression, some are extremely overweight. So how do you adapt to every client? It's a very vague question, but how do you, over the years, how do you see like a random client and you, after like 30 minutes, you're like, okay, this I'm going to train this person for the next like 6 months.
Well, I could answer that a few different ways. If you want to create a business that you absolutely love, and this is so hard because everybody wants to say yes to everybody and take the money when it's offered, what you would do is you would strictly define your avatar. So I only train, for example, I only train high school athletes who are XYZ. I only train guys who are over 40 years old and are type A executives. You do that, you narrow that down, it makes every single business decision you make 10 times easier. It makes your program design 10 times easier. Uh, any question you need to answer, anytime you need to hire staff, anytime you need to systematize things, anytime you need to tell people who work for you what you're going to do and why, it's so simple. But if you take on everybody, so if your day consists of training an 80-year-old grandmother in the morning, high school kids in the afternoon, a group of power lifters at night, and then five guys who work on Wall Street who want to feel better and look good, like it becomes an insane asylum. It becomes really crazy. So I would suggest if you could narrow it down, and who are you going to like working with most? The people that are most like you. That's a universal principle.
Right.
Who's going to want to hire you and do business with you? It's the know, like, or trust factor. Is Phil like me? Do we have similar interests? Does he train a certain way? Does he want to do a similar stuff? That's what really matters. So I think be clear on establishing that, and then say yes to only the people you want, and say no to everybody else. Be okay with saying no. I don't do that. Joe DeFranco, for example, he's a good friend of mine. He has a system that he sticks with. So if some old lady comes in or whatever, he doesn't say, oh, now we're going to do full body. Oh, now we're going to do body weight. Like, he has his West Side hybrid
Right.
model, and that's what he does with everybody. And that's how you create a simple business. So that's my advice first and foremost. And then just being good at reading people. Read How to Win Friends and Influence People. Any kind of books on people skills and whatnot, and that'll help you kind of get better. Brett Bartholomew's got a great book, Conscious. I think it's called Conscious Coaching. But that just comes down to practice and getting to know people and getting to know how they're motivated. And then again, some people need more variety, some people need less variety.
Right.
That's just something you get to know over time. But even speaking that out loud, I see why it's so smart to just pick one avatar and work with those kind of people and tell everybody else, no, this is not the perfect fit. You should work with this guy. You should work with my friend. And people respect you so much more when you say no, when you have this big network of people. Oh, you used to go see my buddy Mike, or hey, here's a good guy, like go see Chad or somebody. He's great. He works with, your avatar or your specific problem. I don't know how to do that. When you admit that you don't know how to do something and that you can't help somebody with that, like if you say, oh, I'm not a rehab guy, go see that guy. You look smarter than saying, oh, let me figure out how to rehab this guy, or I'm not even a
Right.
nutrition guy. Like, someone who really specializes is going to be known for something and going to be really respected.
But when do you think it's important to really draw that line? Because I'm sure at first, you want to be able to work with a multitude of different people, but when did you draw that line where it's like, hey, I'm training X people, X avatar?
Yeah. I think it is a good idea to train as many people as you can at the beginning because you need experience. So over time, you'll just get to know, like, okay, I'm gravitating towards, I'm really enjoying working with these types of people. But these types of people are kind of driving me insane. I have so much homework to do to figure out how to train them because it's not my normal way of training. So I think over time, as the money starts to come in, start to narrow it down and say no more and more. And then just, that should go kind of on a curve as you go. You say no more, and you just narrow down who you're working with. Like
Right.
right now, I only want to work with a certain, like someone who's going to pick up exercises in 2 minutes, who's going to be really into it. Like, really, like if someone doesn't care about all the effort that I put in the last 30 years or the last 25 years, then I really don't want to work with them. Like, they should go work with someone who's going to cater to beginners more. And I don't know how that sounds, but that's me. Like, I don't have to just work with anybody anymore. I want to be happy. And I think you should, if you create a business where you're happy to go to work every day, you're going to be more successful.
Right. No, I like that answer, but so let's talk about, your early career when you first started. There was obviously no YouTube, no none of the stuff we're seeing right now. I feel like right now we're in the greedy age. We have too many tools at our disposal, and if, a lot of people aren't really using the platforms properly, or they're not really taking advantage. But we have all the tools. There's no reason to be like broke or anything in this day and age because everything's laid out there. But when you were coming up, when you were starting as a trainer, you didn't have any of this stuff. You didn't have you had like magazines and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But what would you do differently if you could be the old Jay, but in this day and age? If you had access to the Instagram and everything,
That's a tough one.
would you
So
do it differently? Would you repeat the same process with the blogging and then like getting more?
yeah, I mean, I would still. So I started. I didn't put any content out. I mean, I guess there wasn't really much of an option. I was training people in '94. I mean, there was, there was stuff. I think '96 maybe T Nation came out, but there wasn't a ton of stuff out there. So if I was starting out now, yeah, I would put content out every day. If you want to build an audience and for people to view you as an expert, you have to put stuff out every single day. Like Nike doesn't take a day off of advertising. Howard Stern built up his reputation by being on Monday through Friday every single day. Johnny Carson every single day. You get to know people. You get to know, like, and trust them. You name it. Anderson Cooper, Jimmy Fallon, they're on every night. So you can't just think, oh, I'm going to put out content once in a blue moon. No. If you have, like, you're an expert if you have something to say every day. So I had something to say every single day. I was putting content out back when nobody was doing it. I was blogging every day. I was emailing every day. So that's key. So that's what I would do now. I would still put up Instagram posts daily. Like, wake up in the morning. It's irresponsible if you wake up in the morning. It's irresponsible to you and your family if you get up in the morning and you don't know precisely what you have to do to make money that day. If you're just operating like, fuck, I don't know, maybe I should put up some shit on Instagram, maybe I should do email, maybe I should just read a new training article for 6 hours. But, like, dude, you have to wake up and know, okay, Instagram stories about this, and this. Those make me money or those get me leads. Perfect. I got to do that. I got to send an email to my list. I got to blog. I got to make a video, and I got to answer questions for my coaching clients. Do all of those things and hopefully narrow it down to really just the 20%, like doing 80-20, the most important things. And then you could waste time clicking through Instagram or reading stuff or, doing other stuff. But, like, you got to get up and know, here's this list of 3 to 5 things I have to do to make money today. Otherwise, like I said, it's just really irresponsible for you, for your employees, for your family.
Mm-hmm. So I recall in one of your most recent seminars, at least on your YouTube channel, you said you called yourself the insecure, shy guy who was hiding behind the blog posts.
Mm.
So if you could go back, would you have done it differently? Would you have, like, jumped on the video scene sooner, showing your face, talking?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I was so quiet and shy and insecure, and man, I just, I let that cripple me for a long time. And then anxiety builds up. And the longer you put something off, the more monumental it becomes to try to do it. You're like, oh, shit, I haven't done it in so long. Now it's this big thing. So, yeah, and in this day and age, in 2019, you have to be on video or you're not going to win. Video is the key. Video is how people get to know you, get to see you, get to like you, get to trust you. So you got to be doing video. So, yeah, I wish I could go back and force myself to say, stop being so insecure, just get on video and do it sooner. Even the podcast. The podcast is 5 years this month, but, man, I should have done that 2 or 3 years earlier as well. Mm-hmm. So you got to just push yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, but nonetheless, it's still a very successful vlog.
Yeah.
Like you said, you were getting like 500K views.
Yeah, it was crazy back in the day. Yeah.
So clearly it was still a great experience. But are you still blogging right now, or is it more?
Not really. I mean, I'll write, like, if you're on my email list, I'll write a new post at least 2 days a week, maybe some days 4. And I guess you could kind of consider Instagram blogging. I mean, I'll write. I don't know how many. I don't know what the word limit is on Instagram, but I'll write a good 1-page article on there sometimes under a post.
I could relate to that so much because when I first started reading your articles, I got introduced to somebody who I'm not going to say the name of the site, but they're like, "Hey Phil, you want to start writing articles?" And my viewers never heard this story before, but basically I wrote like 4 articles, and then I'm like, fuck this, I'm not gonna. I want to have my own thing. They're basically lowballing me. They were just making me write for free, basically. They're making it
Mm.
sound like I was getting the best offer in the world when I was just writing them free articles, and I just started writing my own stuff on the Fit World blog, and but I could relate to what you're saying so much because I feel like I wasn't really developing as fast as I could possibly develop as a person. My speaking skills, I was still shy to a certain extent, and I wasn't showing my face on camera. And I noticed when I started showing my face, I still got lots of work to do, obviously, but it's way better now, you know.
Yeah,
But
that's awesome, man.
so let's talk about. I really liked in your seminar when you talked about putting others first and the importance of making other people feel special. And I really like that because a lot of people, my one of my big mentors, his name is Miles from Miles Fit Studio. He said there's 2 kinds of people. There's those who are interesting and those who are interested,
Mm.
and both are great. And everybody has like a little bit of both. But people who are very interesting, it's like they're more on the entertainment side. It's more like, look at me, I'm interesting. But then people who are interested, they wanna serve others,
Hmm.
like you said in your seminar. So what was your aha moment where you're like, making other people feel special is really the way to go, and it's not all about me, but it's about the impact I have on others and just helping people, helping change lives.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a series of events and over time and reading the right books and everything. But eventually I figured out that the best way to cause yourself unhappiness and stress and anxiety is just focus on yourself all day. How can I make more money? How can I get bigger? How can I get stronger? How can I do this? How can I do that? Whereas if you focus on other people and you shift that focus from internal to external and get up in the morning and leave the house instead of working on all this stuff on yourself, how can I make somebody else feel better? How can I make eye contact? How can I initiate more conversations? Can I give more compliments? And just looking to help and serve. Like Dr. King said, anybody can be great because anyone can serve. Jackie Robinson said a life is not important except in the impact that it has on other lives. So and then like you're talking like uh, people like to talk about themselves. Like 60% of conversation is
Hmm.
people will talk about themselves. So if you can get someone to open up to you and you're just asking them questions as opposed to saying, "Hey, I do this and I do that and I'm so great." If you ask them and you're genuinely interested, "Oh man, that's amazing. How'd you do that? Oh, really? And who introduced you? So cool, man. So tell me more about that. And what did that lead to?" If you could just ask follow-up questions and be interested, people love that. And so if they're talking about themselves, a positive change happens chemically within them. They associate that with you. Like, man, I love Phil. He's the best. But you might be like, dude, all I did was ask you questions. Like, I didn't say a word about myself. But that people love that. So
Yeah.
just focusing. And even like some days we just need to be reminded about it. Like I had a friend recently who's getting ready for a really big thing and on TV in front of millions of people and was super stressed out. And I was like, that what you need to do is just go meet somebody else for coffee or go hang out or go help somebody who's not in that position and help help them work on whatever they need to work on or whatever they're bummed out about, and then you actually feel better. So I mean, part of it's selfish because you feel better, but
Right.
it's the reality. Like if you help other people, I mean, deep down that's why most people donate to a charity or something. Like it makes them feel better. So that's always part of it, which is fine. um, but yeah, I just think the more you could focus on other people, the better you're going to feel.
Yeah, it's a big lesson right there. And I liked it when you said in your seminar and that nobody cares. When you're talking about
Nah,
yourself so often, like you're talking, nobody cares. Like unless if you have very great intentions for them.
yeah, no, nobody gives a shit. It's crazy. Like until they know how much you care. Walter Payton said, when you're good at something, you'll tell everybody. When you're great, they'll tell you. So people don't really like that. I mean, it's just off-putting. And if you
Right.
want to build a relationship, like make other people feel smart, make other people feel impressive, make other people feel important. And some of the best people I know are great with that. Like they're Like I have a good friend who's always, almost always the smartest person in the room, the most financially successful person in the room, but he makes everybody else feel that, which is crazy.
Right.
But that's real skill.
No. Yeah. Just to everybody watching, to everybody who made it this far, like I keep referencing the seminar Jason did. I'm gonna link it with his channel, but you guys have to check out the seminar. It's amazing knowledge, right? And I'm
Thanks,
still
man.
thinking about no, the Arnold Schwarzenegger story with Jen.
Mm,
It really touched me too, and like that is why Arnold is successful because he could remember stuff like that.
totally.
You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's and also what you said about when you go to like these big events and you feel like you have something to prove to others when all the other people who you know they've already established themselves in a major way, they don't have anything to prove.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean that's another way to turn people off. Like if you come off as if you have something to prove, it's just gonna make it really hard for you to build relationships with people.
yeah, no, but you guys
And
have
if
to
you
check
have
this
that
out.
carefree kind of, like, if you have that kind of cool, collected carelessness, you're not real nervous, you're not anxiety ridden, because that stuff turns people off too. If you just chill, like you'll attract more people, you'll build better relationships. Absolutely.
Hmm. So let's talk about happiness, right? So how has your definition of happiness changed in the last 10 years? Let's say, 2009, 2008 compared to now.
I think it was more just the way I looked and how much money I made and stuff like that. Whereas now it's more just the relationships and how I impact people and help people. And it's crazy because I mean, 10 years ago, I really had very few close, meaningful relationships like I do now, and now I have a lot. And so that's the most important thing to me is maintaining those relationships, being a good friend. Um, whatever the relationship is, being good on my end of the relationship and helping people, making people feel better, being there for them. Uh, and so now, even from people I don't know, from listeners, whatever, I get people in the Renegade Strength. Like I get so many messages that are more than just training, which is cool. I mean, training's always going to be the foundation. I love it. Like I said, like The Rock says, it's like the anchor. But when people say, "Oh, I have more confidence now," or "I have better relationships with my family," or this or that, like that's amazing.
Hmm. So these questions are in no particular order, but why do you think some people aren't as happy as they are, even though they've built all this muscle? Like, why do you think some people tell themselves, "Hey, once I reach this goal, um, you know, once I reach, 250 or whatever the case is, or I reach a lean, 180, and then they reach that and they're not happy." I'm sure you've seen that happen a lot of times. Why do you think
Sure.
that
Well, people do
happens?
that with everything. People think, oh, like some of my friends here in Hollywood are actors. Once I get this role, I'll be happy. If you own a business, once I make 250 or once I make 500 grand a year, I'll be happy. Once I weigh this much, I'll be happy. Like there's no point ever where you'll be happy if that's how you're measuring happiness. Like there is no end goal. There's no destination. It's just the journey. So you need to embrace just the daily habits, enjoy it, you know, enjoy the work, enjoy each workout, and you're never going to get there. Like no matter what goal you set, if you say, okay, I want to look exactly like The Rock and be in that many movies, even if you achieve that, you're still going to be like, well, fuck, I should be in more movies and I should be more jacked. Like you got to look for what's really important. And if you had a terminal illness and the doctor said you have a few months left to live, what are you really going to do? What are you going to really care about? You're not going to care about how much you weigh and how much money you make. It's going to be time with people you love and experiences. How can I be better for these people so they have a memory of me? Like, what are they going to say when I'm gone? Oh, I benched 365, or I made so much money, or I worked so much. No one's going to care. They're just going to be like, oh, you hope they're going to say, man, he was such a good friend. He was always present. We had so much fun together. He made me laugh. He was always there for me. He never tried to brag. He was humble. He helped people. Like that's what you want them to say. So are you living your life in that way that if you were gone, if someone had to get up and give your eulogy, would they say the things you want them to say about you?
Hmm.
If not, you need to start to make some changes. And again, like if you're unhappy, figure out why. How are you measuring that happiness? It's not in those kind of things like the money, the body. the accolades. That's not going to make you happy.
Hmm. I think Bob Marley said it best. The whole numbers never end. If you base your happiness on numbers, you'll never be happy.
Yeah,
And it's all ego at the end of the day. At least a lot of it. Like, obviously, you want to look great, you want to make money, but at least I personally think there's more to life than that. But
totally.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean, not that there's anything wrong with those type of things, because some people are at the opposite end of the spectrum where maybe they grew up and they have a negative association with money, like money's evil, money's the root of all evil, money's bad. People who have money are assholes and they're racist and they're disrespectful to people, which I get because I grew up thinking that a lot of ways too. So, don't get it twisted. Like, it's important, and there's nothing wrong with saying I want to make more money, because money buys you freedom and money can help you buy a house for your mom and do certain things. There's nothing wrong with it. I never want to downplay that, but prioritize it. What's the most
right.
important thing?
So speaking about that, what's up with the? Let's rewind back to your minimalist series. It's one of my favorite series you made. What's your current take on it? Like, could you still live like a minimalist? You still?
Yeah, I try to as much as possible. I mean, Steve Jobs said those have always been my main mantras is focus and simplicity. I mean, you go to Thoreau, you go to Bruce Lee. Simplicity is always going to win. So I try to, as much as possible, not have as many clothes or shoes and books as I used to. I try to keep it super simple and across the board and everything. Like, the more you can simplify your training, your work, your nutrition, what makes you happy. I think always doing an 80-20. I always recommend that people read The One Thing, Essentialism, the 80-20 Principle, anything by Leo Babauta. Books like that are great. There's one by Joshua Becker, The More of Less. So I like to reread those kind of things all the time because it's so easy to slip, especially in this day and age. Like, most people's natural inclination is to do more, more, more. Like in the gym, I got to do more. I got to do more because I saw some guy on Instagram doing 100 sets of some crazy shit, or I gotta have 80 pair of sneakers. You're getting bombarded with thousands of advertising messages all day. You're looking at your phone all day, and it's like it's good to remind yourself to kind of reread those books every so often.
So to jump back into the training, I've noticed in some of your articles you made certain tweaks. And so what are some big things that you believed in, like you swore by back in the day that you fast forward to 2019, you change your mind on? And why is it fine for certain coaches to change their philosophies over time? Because there seems to be this thing online where once a coach says something, it's like inscripted in like rock or something, and you have to
Yeah,
stand by it. But coaches change their minds too. I've changed my mind all the time about certain
yeah.
things that I've preached in the past, and I think it's perfectly fine. But what's your take on it?
Well, you got to evolve. I mean, if you just remain a dinosaur and you never change your mind on anything, that's really weird. Muhammad Ali said the guy who views the world at 50 the same way he did at 20 has wasted 30 years of his life. So you don't want to be like that. You don't want to be wasting all that time. Wow, what I thought in 1998, I still think now. That's crazy. Look at some movies like American History X, or look at Real Life Examples, which was also made into a movie about Malcolm X, where that's inspirational, where a guy thinks a certain way, believes a certain thing, but goes through the transformative experience of life and meeting different people and learning different things. And now he believes something 180-degree opposite. Like, take your hat off. That's admirable. I know some people don't want to change because we have this weird thing where, oh, that, like, if you look at the what was it, 2008 election maybe with John Kerry, where he changed his mind on a few things, people are like, oh, well, he's a flip flopper, he doesn't stand firm. Which, of course, as a leader, you have to stand firm with certain things, but man, you got to evolve. That's inspirational. I love when I see people evolve. So, and I'll be the first to admit, I think good coaches, or anybody really, when they say, "Hey, I was wrong about this. I learned some new stuff. We didn't have this information available at the time. Maybe we didn't have this science, or I didn't have all this experience." You got to change and evolve. So now, to answer your question more specifically, back then, I would have tried to set PRs nonstop. I would go heavy all the time, regardless of how I felt. So if I walked in and I had done, let's say I benched 315 for 10 and I want to get 11, if my shoulder feels like it's going to fall off, I'm just going to go, all right, let's just do 80 more warm-up sets. I'll put some blue heat on my shoulder and somehow try to get it. Whereas now I'm going to go, well, maybe I should just do push-ups today, or maybe I shouldn't even press, get my shoulder worked on, and then we'll come back stronger the next day. So I would do stupid stuff like that. I would plow through. Back in the day, it was more just moving the weight from point A to point B versus really maximizing my exercise execution, making sure form was perfect,
Right.
maintaining tension, no energy leaks, tight grip, shoulders back and down, abs brace, glute squeeze, feet corkscrewed into the floor. Before the bar moves or the weight moves is the target muscle that I want to initiate the weight with firing first. Am I maintaining tension on the eccentric? All these kinds of things I think are super important. We're back in the day, you just pump and weight, just try to move, just
Yeah.
up the weight each week, stuff like that. So those kind of things are really important. Um, now, of course, we know so much more about nutrition. So back then, I thought performance was just calories. Just eat as much protein and calories as you can, and you'll recover. But obviously, that's not the case. Food quality is super important. Even if you took two identical twins, gave them the exact same calories and macronutrients, if the one guy's eating organic, grass-fed, and the other guy's
Right.
never mind if it's shit. Like it doesn't have to be Kentucky Fried Chicken. Like it could just be a lower quality, like grain-fed stuff. The guy who's eating the highest quality food is going to have better results. He's going to have less inflammation. His immune system's going to be stronger. He's going to sleep better. His sex drive's going to be better. His cognitive function is going to be better. His performance in the gym is going to be better. So food quality is super important. That was another thing I didn't pay attention to either.
So how much of what you say is bro science versus like actual science, like
That's
updated?
all bro science,
It's
bro.
all
I'm
bro.
just making it up.
Seriously?
uh, no, so what was the full question? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, that was it. Like, how much of what you preach is like bro science compared to like actual backed up science of like 2019, it's updated stuff? And could you give like an example of something that you don't believe that you believe that is bro science that you've just been preaching all this time?
Hmm. I mean, tough to say. Like, studies come out all the time with young college kids that either have no experience or they train for 1 or 2 years, and then people jump to conclusions. But the insanity of it all, and which is why I feel bad for people these days who don't, fitness isn't their profession, is they'll say, okay, now this study comes out and shows we should do 40 sets per week per muscle group, and guys are like, holy shit, okay. So they start doing that. Now, if it was that easy, that'd be great. Everyone would look like The Rock. Everyone would be super strong. Because you can just go to the gym and just do more volume. That's easy. Well, what are we wasting all this time studying and working hard? Like, that's super easy just to do lots of sets.
Hmm.
Okay, so then it's not that. So then the next week, the study comes out and says, well, we were just kidding, actually. A meta-analysis says that 10 to 15 sets per body part seems to be about right. Okay, yeah, so that makes sense. And then you'll see guys like Dante Trudell and Dorian Yates and all these other guys who get super jacked and get thousands of people jacked on 1 to 3 sets a week. So you're like, well, that makes no fucking sense either.
Hmm.
So, but the reality is like, you have to do what smart strength coaches and trainers have done for years. Like they're not jumping around looking at sets. If you're in the gym with people, you know that for the most part, the majority of people aren't sleeping a perfect 9 hours. They're not, their nutrition's not perfect. They have stress, they have anxiety, they have other responsibilities. So training's a stressor. So we have to start with the least amount possible. What's the least you can do? If you're not doing anything right now and you're going to start training tomorrow, well, let's do the least because 1 set's better than 0 sets. So let's see what we can do there. We also know that the answer is, are you doing more weight or more reps with the weight you were doing 3 months ago and 3 years ago? If the answer is no, okay, well, you're not getting anywhere.
Right.
So the lowest amount of volume you can do that allows progress, do that, and then okay, so if 1 set's not working, let's up it to 2, let's up it to 3. But then you can't just continually up the sets forever because your joints would all be destroyed. So I've gotten suckered into looking at all those studies, especially nowadays. It's more prevalent. Every coach wants to say, "Well, this is backed by this study and this study," and I get it. I look at those and I look at the reviews of them, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that. I think what smart coaches do is you eventually look to science to validate what you know and what you've done and what you've learned in the trenches by experience. And oh, okay, so that makes sense. So that's why what I'm doing works. I mean, if you sit around and have discussions with strong guys who compete in strongman or powerlifting or guys who are pro strength coaches, which I've done for the last 25 years. All these guys are my good friends. I go into NFL weight rooms and we just talk about what has actually worked. Now then I might take that and, you look at some studies and say, okay, that validates what XYZ said. But really it's what's worked in the trenches, what stood the test of time, what's worked for the largest majority of people. Now with nutrition, I'd say, again, even, there's definitely studies that make sense, but you have this whole slew of people now getting amazing results on the carnivore diet. You have Dr. Sean Baker promoting it, Dr. Paul Saladino, and people are just curing basically all kinds of autoimmune diseases. Now, if you look at every single study, it's going to tell you that you need to eat blueberries and kale and all this kind of stuff every day. But then how could all these people be healing themselves? So, and a lot of it, obviously, there's some politics involved. Like, there's never going to be studies showing that you should only eat meat. Like, what are the grain industries and big pharma and all going to have to say about that? So there's always this balance. You want to be well-read. You want to know what's going on with studies. And you have to have real experience. And kind of, I'd say it's a 50-50 balance.
Okay. So we're closing up the interview very soon. Just gonna wrap up a couple more questions. So where do you see the fitness industry? Because I'm sure you're a perfect example of someone who's seen, people come and go and just things go full circle in the industry. Things get popular again, they fall off, and they come back. So where do you see the trends? Not to say that the trends really mean anything anyways, but what's next in the fitness industry? And what I mean by that is, CrossFit, for example, that was like a big thing. Still is a big thing. But what are like some waves that you see coming? Yeah, as far as like the trends are concerned, do you see, for example, I don't know, Olympic weightlifting dying out more and powerlifting coming more on the rise along with strongman? Do you see like bodybuilding kind of dying off?
No, I think CrossFit will probably continue to evolve and adapt, and I think eventually the bubble will burst a little bit on that, and more like safer versions of CrossFit will come out, where it's more body weight and dumbbells and kettlebells and stuff like that, and easier for most people to do. I think you'll see more of those places popping up. But I think CrossFit will evolve and adapt and so many of them have done this for the last several years anyway. Smarter programming, better coaches, not forcing people to do movements they could. And again, you see a lot of these CrossFit gyms now doing so many more bodybuilding exercises, powerlifting exercises, doing unilateral training, stuff they didn't do 5 years ago, where they're doing dumbbell bench presses and they're doing one-arm rows and inverted rows and strongman exercises. So I think people will tend to continue to evolve and get smarter and make things safer, because that's one of the big knocks, right, against CrossFit, is that people get injured all the time. So eventually that catches up. You don't want that to be the reputation. I even saw CrossFit headquarters said they're trying to distance themselves from the games. Like, competing for the games is very different than what the average person should be doing. So that's kind of what I see.
So what's up with how's the shoulder going? As far as I know, you've had a big pass of shoulder injuries. How's the training?
That's fine. It's all good. Knock on wood. I hadn't had any shoulder issues whatsoever in years, and then I think just by not paying attention to my frequency, like I said earlier, just kind of training with so many different people all over the place, I was getting a little too much frequency of pressing in, and so I did something. It's more of a subscap thing that I can kind of adjust, but I'm not sure why it keeps flaring up. So, but it's nowhere near what it used to be. I mean, I'm pretty good most of the time.
When you see lifters online or just lifters in general and they bench, and you got like one fist higher than the other, how do you coach somebody like that? Do you think it's I don't know, they're not doing enough retraction, work on the rows? Or do you think it's tightness? Do you think it's just the proper cueing? What do you personally do when you see somebody who they're clearly pressing more with one arm?
I mean, it could be all those things. So you want to address all those things, and then if it is a weakness, you just want to do a lot, maybe exclusively unilateral stuff, or at least add, if you're competing in powerlifting, obviously you're not going to pull the bench out for an extended period of time, but
Hmm.
add in some unilateral stuff for sure, both unilateral pulling and pressing.
Right. So,
And then obvious, it sounds obvious, but it's worth saying, only do on the strong side as much as you can do on the weak side. So if your left side's your weak side, you can only get 8 reps. Do 8 reps. Don't do 12 on the right side. Work on evening that out.
okay. So as far as benching is concerned, because I remember reading your old articles with like, Dave Tate, and you saying you'd get him on the upper body days, he'd get you on the lower body, like, and you were. What about the benching, for example? As far as the benching pad, like somebody like you who's had all these shoulder, issues, what's your favorite bench to use? For example, have you ever tried the fat pad? It's actually a bench I'm
No,
thinking of
no,
ordering, but
yeah, I'd love to. I saw it in a gym recently, and I was doing legs, but I want to try it out. I'll probably go back. So a low incline. Dorian Yates was actually the first person who introduced that to me, and I know that others have taken that from him too. Like a 10 to 20 degree incline
hmm,
is going to be way safer on your shoulder, and obviously a neutral grip or an angle grip, a Swiss bar, football bar, whatever, is going to be a lot safer on your shoulder. And if you're not competing, if you don't have to, have any rules or anything like that, then I would do that 10 to 20 degree and stop it, depending on the person and where they get any kind of shoulder stress in their anatomy, 1 to 3 inches off your chest is going to, and Dave Tate even has that kind of, if you're using a straighter bar, there's some neutral grip bars that are straight in the middle, and then they have neutral grips, which are great because you could use that pad that Dave has, the shoulder saver.
hmm. Okay, so we're pretty much wrapped up. Got one more question. What's your plans? Like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Upcoming projects, stuff of that nature.
Uh, I try to be as much as possible. So if you look at the past, you're depressed. If you look at the future, you have anxiety. So I try to live in the present and be as grateful as I can. Live each day, fully. Be there for everybody. And honestly, right now, my life is amazing. Like I'm so grateful. I can't believe the opportunities that I have, the people that I have, the things I get to do. So I don't think as much about the future. I think I'll be doing the same thing I do. I mean, I've always loved this. I'll still be working with people. I'll still be putting stuff out online, and I'll still be living in Southern Cali, and doing what I do now. I've kind of just gotten to the place where I'm really happy, and so I don't want to cause myself depression by looking back and anxiety by looking forward. Just day to day, just putting in the work and being a better version of myself every day.
Love it. So where can people find you? And where's the
Yeah, go to j.fit, jay.fit. That'll redirect you to everything. RenegadeRadioPodcast.com. And then I'm active on Instagram, and that's at jferruggia.
perfect? So I'm gonna post everything down below in case anybody forgets. But thanks a lot for coming on the channel today. I really appreciate it. To everybody
Thanks
who
so much.
watched this Q&A till the end, you guys are the real MVPs, and have a great day.
Thanks so much, Phil. I appreciate it, man.
Take care.
All right, brother. I'll see you. Have a good
Ciao.
one.